Hello to everyone watching. This is my first video. I will probably use this channel to break down and understand the lore of certain pieces of media I find interesting. The game of interest today is, if I'm pronouncing it right, Soccoro, or Soccoro? I don't know. A dinosaur game on Roblox. The game, made by the Russian Spino. It's a cool guy, by the way. You should check out his Discord. Should be in the description. It takes some concepts and ideas from the Isle and makes it its own thing. It is basically the Isle on Roblox if it had a dev team that didn't take 6 months per horde test update. Very fun stuff. But we're not going over the gameplay of the game. If you came for that, which you probably didn't because of the title of the video, then go play the game. Today we're going over the lore of Soccoro. Now, the issue with this, and why this hasn't come out sooner from other people, is that the game has very esoteric and not fully developed lore. It was pretty hard to theorize, but with the opening of the recent theory and theory discussion channels on their Discord, I thought it would be a good idea, despite the lack of lore content at the moment. So, let's get into it. So to start off, I would like to go over the current timeline of the game. We sort of know nothing about the timeline. But, because of the reconstruction of the Soccoro Utahraptor model, we can infer it at least had to have taken place from 1990 onward. Why? Well, if we look at the Utah model in game, it depicts the overall body structure paleontologists would have used for late 1990s and early 2000 depictions of Dromaeosaurus. You are probably thinking it could just be a design choice. You might be right, but I think otherwise. Realistically, you cannot obtain DNA from something over around 7 to 8,000 years old. It would be too degraded. So the company probably made the animals that look similar to dinosaurs but are not actually dinosaurs. So, if they were making animals that looked like dinosaurs from their perspective, why would they use a late 1990s look for a Utahraptor? Because the company had to have at least been around from the 1990s onward, which is why they still have that design for the Utahraptor. Now, if we also go off of the infrastructure, we can gather some information on when the game takes place, specifically the technology side of things. You take a look on the screen at the keypad I found on the map, you'll probably think, oh wow, keypad, how not important? Wrong, actually. Keypads, funnily enough, also happen to have been only widely available for residential and commercial use after the 1990s and early 2000s. This means, based on that piece of technology and the dinosaur reconstructions, we can infer that maybe a lot of things took place in the 1990s and early 2000s for the company if both their technology and animals look straight out of the 1990s. But you could just say maybe they purchased that sort of tech in 2050, for all we know. And you could be right, but two instances in dates lining up like this makes me believe it isn't a coincidence. Anyways, that's basically all I have for the time period as of right now because of the lack of anything substantial to make theories on for dates and times. I guess the next thing to move on to would be dinosaur theories, which I I don't have very many of. I actually only have one. But the one I do have is relatively decent and ties in with the theory I just had just now. So, for some context, I did technically derive this theory from how we currently understand the Isle, and I'm using air quotes, dinosaurs. Uh, I use the air quotes because they're not really dinosaurs, they're just animals made to look like dinosaurs. It's a pretty well known thing. I think if you've been in the Isle Lore Discord server, you'd know that's sort of a big thing there. But why I think this theory pertains to Soccoro is, mainly because of the DNA thing. DNA can't last 7 to 8,000 years, and also because of their reconstruction of the Utahraptor. It kind of looks like a 1990s or early 2000s depiction of a Dromaeosaurus, so I think it is relatively sound to say that they probably aren't making dinosaurs. They're just making animals that look like dinosaurs. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. But I think that is pretty good. And that wraps up the video. That is kind of all I had. Yeah. I have some other stuff cooking up. I have a archival document on Google Docs, documenting all the theories, the dev quotes, what have you. It's mostly unfinished, so I can't really post a lot of it. But I might have something really good for next week. But yeah, no, I appreciate anyone who's listened this far, and I think you all should have a very good day. Anyways, take care.